I am Ken, and I'm grateful to continue to be recovering from codependence. Hello, you guys are amazing. It's just been delightful to be here. And I'd also, I just want to offer my gratitude to all of you for being here and to all of you online as well for being a part of this celebration today, 37 years of CoDA. And I was sitting in the back earlier, and I was watching the love of my life share about what she was sharing about, and remembering back 37 years ago tomorrow was the first meeting, and it really started to move me emotionally. It's like in all the work we went through to get to it, and those people who offered to help and support the process, and how far it's come from one meeting 37 years ago to, I think, 68 countries now. I think. I may have that wrong. It might be 67. I know it was 67, but maybe we got one more, what the heck. And I'm just grateful to be a part of that. But this is your program. This is our program. I'm not the program, nor is Mary, nor is any one of you, but we are all this program. And so to share this with all of you is a very powerful experience for me. It brings such gratitude to my heart, makes it swell right now. And when I get like that, I just don't want to talk. I just want to take a minute and feel it. So I was asked to talk about primary ego states, nice clinical term, that has to do with, I loved someone who had I don't think it was a question, just to share about voices in the head. I love the voices in my head. Oh, thank you. I probably won't want to tell you why, but I love the voices in my head, actually. Most of them. This information came about almost for 70 years ago. In the 1950s, a psychiatrist, which I won't go into, but he asked the simplest of questions for a psychiatrist. He said, we know we're not crazy when we're talking to ourselves. We know that for a fact. So who's talking to who? So he did a massive research project. Huge research project. Every demographic he could find. Young, old, married, single, educated, uneducated, various cultures. Every aspect that he could research. Almost every single person could identify three voices. Later they became known as the three ego states: child, parent, adult. And for as long as I've known this, and many of my associates professionally have known it, we believe that there was four. And I actually got, when I was doing a professional presentation similar to this in Santa Fe, a therapy emerged out of this. Oh, good. I hit a button, but I don't know which one. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. Damn, it's nice to have glasses. I was doing a presentation on transactional analysis, which is the therapy that emerged out of this work. And it's a therapy that analyzes the transactions in our head. Who's talking to who? And I said there were four, and this man jumped up, started raging at me. You're bastardizing a perfect therapy. I'm quoting him. So, and thank God it was a room of probably about 300 therapists, because pretty quickly they all just said, just sit down and shut up. I was like, I'm going, yes. I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to set a boundary. And when I was finished, he came up to me afterwards and thanked me. He offered his gratitude and his thanks because he finally understood. And then more recently, about 30 years ago, through quantum physics, And the brain mapping that's been done, they've discovered there are 4 primary ego states: the child, the parent, the adult, and the higher self. And so what I want to talk about first is ideal development, what we should have gotten, okay? Because that's the goal for recovery as well. And then we're going to talk about what we did get and how we make that journey from what we did get to what we should have gotten, okay? And so the, oh, nice. I can actually read that one. These are ideal. Would it be fair to say that we are thinking, feeling, behaving people? We have thoughts, feelings, and actions. And what we do know today is that thoughts drive feelings, and feelings drive actions. And even if we don't know what we're feeling because we blocked our conscious awareness off of our feelings are still active, and they're still driving our actions, whether we like it or not. So basically, what they began to discover was that how we develop as a human being is by quadrants in the brain. In the front, and we'll talk about each of these quadrants, the first being the loving child, okay? So the loving child has everything to do with our feelings, and it carries the spirit of who we are. The creativity, spontaneity, play, fun, laughter, hopes, dreams, memories, the memories of everything that happened. And most of us go to great lengths to shut that part of our brain down. I was trying to shut it down with alcohol and drugs by the time I was 11 years old. And prior to that, for 3 years before that, was smoking. And that all progressed until I was almost dead at 28. And that's when I got clean. So if you put the numbers together, 28, and, I'm 47, I'm 75. But I'm still this child. I'm more this child today than I've ever been in my life. I love to play. I love the spontaneity. Ooh, that's really bright. Oh. We got to play at this. We have to play at this because this is heavy duty, serious work. And this is why a lot of, prior to the advent of codependence understanding and CoDA, why a lot of only 1 in 4 stayed clean and sober in any other 12-step program. Most of them died. So rather than feel this and experience that child and the good and the not so good, we go to great lengths to shut that part of ourselves down. So I had a little boy inside. My family nickname was, and still is, it's not a nickname. My young boy's name is Timmy. And I don't have a middle name. I have the middle initial, and I'm a junior. So to tell the difference between me and my father, who died when I was only 15 months old from alcoholism, they would call me Tim. And I grew up hating Tim, hating him with a passion. So as I began to do this work, when it wasn't inner child work, it was still a therapist I was seeing when I first got clean. And I had come to work in the field, and somebody suggested I see this therapist and do some of the work. And I was happy to do that because I wanted, anybody who's familiar with Gestalt therapy, you do have to do 300 hours of Gestalt therapy on your own before you ever get certified. So I figured, okay, I'll go do the therapy, I'll get certified, and everybody's happy. I never finished just because my life took a lot of left and right turns. But but I had a conversation with the therapist, and I said, I've got this pain, and half the time I feel like a stupid little kid. And like a good Gestalt therapist would say, well, let's bring him out and talk to him, So I pictured him, and then we did what's called a full Gestalt, where you breathe out of where you are, and you go over, you breathe in to that part of All of a sudden, to that part of me. and uh, and the pain came because I dropped right into the reality of that part of my brain. And I didn't even know what all the pain was about. And he said, just keep breathing. And most of you who know me, you know, that's one of my most favorite sayings. Take a deep breath. Because most people, when they start to feel, they stop breathing. Choke that stuff down, you know. Tighten the jaw when it's angry, and is it still there? Okay. This is starting to fall. Oh, it's gonna mess up my hair. So that was my first experience in coming to know that child. And there was no inner child work. And in the process of going through evolution of working in the treatment industry, I went to work at a program who the executive director gave us a lot of latitude to experiment. And we were trying to figure out this thing called codependence. And so that child kept showing up. And because a number of books were being written now, it was becoming the thing. And a number of authors were showing up, and I can't go into all of them, and I won't, but one of them actually worked for the treatment facility that I worked for. I was the director of treatment, and she was the director of nursing. So we were experimenting with integrating inner child work into the therapeutic process. And it worked. It worked more profoundly and quickly than anything else had. And I was still doing my own inner child work, but I had to get to know him, and his name was Timmy. And I don't know that I liked him. I was getting used to him because I was now aware. It's kind of funny how when something opens up in your brain, you can't unlearn it and lock it back down again. You know, it's like he was there, and you let me know he was there. And pretty quickly, I started to learn about the other part of my brain called the teenager. And the teen, his name was Tim. So today I love and adore them both. I wouldn't be alive and standing here today talking to you without that teenager. I needed that fighting spirit that would go to any lengths to do what I needed to do, good, bad, and ugly, in order to survive. And thank God, because it's the energy of the teenager integrated into the wisdom of a loving parent. That means that those two combined, I can accomplish anything. There's no stopping me. But we need both. And unfortunately, in my development, I never made it past a loving child. I had an angry teenager who substituted as my parent. I knew how to put on the altogether act, to say the right thing and do the right thing and act the right ways and dress the right ways and make sure I had certain labels in my shirt just in case you asked. Oh, where'd you get that shirt? and that's what I grew up in. So that was my family system, very affluent family system. So I had to begin to build a relationship with this child. And he was just going to have nothing to do with it because he didn't trust me. He didn't believe in me. He didn't like me. In some ways, he hated me back. So in ideal development, we evolve out of the child into the teen, from the teen, and we take that teen and child and integrate it into a loving parent. And a loving parent is internalized based on the authority figures and how they treat me. So a loving parent is going to treat me with love, respect, integrity, boundaries. I'm going to be as important as they are. My thoughts and feelings are as important as theirs was. I mean, I don't know if you knew anybody like that, but I didn't know anybody like that. I was desperate to want to have that. And so, But in ideal development, that's how we build an internal power base, because the adult, which includes the information, is all about thoughts. So it's information, it's loving thoughts, it's concept, it's ideas, it's logic, it's ego. And ego is nothing more than what I think I am. And I don't know about you, but I can change, my ego can change what I think I am 6 times in a day, depending on whether I felt I'm judging myself, or you like me or not, or I did it well enough, or whatever. My ego will change and adapt to each one of those. And so it is strictly a laptop computer in the brain. A loving parent has to do with boundaries, protection, self-love, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Self-discipline, self-care, loving self-discipline. Okay, big difference between discipline and loving self-discipline. And equality, my sense of equality to each of you. That I'm no better, no worse, and that when I can stay in that connection, I get to meet you exactly where you are. Exactly where you are, which is all I've ever really wanted. And I was never treated that way. I was always treated as either one up once in a while, but most of the time one down. So, so it is the parent, it is the loving parent. Well, I'm going to pose a question, and I'm going to. Sorry. Yeah, I kind of do. It's late in the day. I want to play, Anyway, and I'm sure I will, because Mary, thank God, I'm in love with somebody that has wanted to play for 40 years, and she plays more than I do. Matter of fact, you should be around Mary around 9 o'clock at night, because this whole magical personality comes out. She does. And it's like, who is that? I don't know. And she's just, yeah. And she'll bypass that, but go, oh, my kids used to do that. My kids would do that. Before they got sleepy, they'd be crazy and goofy and act out. And I said, so you learned it from your kids? Well, no, probably they learned it from you. And, it's a family, it goes back 6 generations, because we're the end of all 7. But thank God you love to play so much, because it makes life delightful. So, and I just lost track of where the outcome was. Let me see. Well, I'm just going to throw it out there. If somebody wants to respond, simply, please do. Where do we get self-esteem? Sorry. Higher power. Where else? Anybody else? Parents. Where else? I know. Say again. Feeling esteeming things. Doing esteeming things. Okay. Teachers. Okay. There's only one source. Self. Nobody can give me self-esteem. My higher power can show up with a giant platter full of self-esteem. Boom, Ken, it's all yours. Don't mean anything until I take it in and apply it to self. And my higher power, one of the things my higher power does best is wait. And I hear all the time, because I have conversations with my higher power, and it took a while to learn that skill. And he says, I'll wait. I'm not going anywhere. When you're ready, I'm still here. And it was a 3-month conversation with him that ended up in all of us sitting here today. And I'll be glad to share that a little bit, but when we get to it. But and so most people attach self-esteem to outside sources. The car, the home, the 2.5 kids acting exactly the right ways, the labels like in the clothes, the money, the bank account, the letters after our names. So take all of that away for just a moment. All of it away. Who's left? Anybody? You. How do you feel about you? I don't know who said that, but so if you're all that's left, how do you feel about you? Good. Takes a while to get there. Most people, when we have no distractions left, we're left with ourselves. And we're left with the fear and the shame and the loneliness and the desperation and the pain and the suffering and the feeling of self-abandonment, because I never had a parent on board who could show up for me. And so we used to, years ago, the big thing was to, some professionals that we've worked with over the years. The big deal was to do inner child lectures and workshops, and some of the authors would travel from one location to the next and call ahead and see if people could arrange for 20 therapists to show up, because they're going to have 1,000 people in a lecture and they're going to walk them through inner child work and then get on a plane and leave. Well, these people are raw, vulnerable, wide open, with no strength on board to handle it. So they want to make sure they were therapists who could pick up the pieces. And it was kind of trendy to do that. And then we kind of put two and two together. We really can't do too much inner child work until we have a strong, empowered self-parent. Because I'm all I got. I don't have you. I don't have Mary. I don't have my kids, my grandkids. All I have is me. And my well-being is not based on Mary, any of you, my grandkids. My well-being is based on my higher power only. And when I give that away to you, now I am compulsively depending on you to make it all okay. And if you'll just make it all okay, then it'll be a good day. It's just like a cocaine addict who just did up a line of coke. Oh, I did a line of coke. The day's going to be okay. Codependents do the same exact thing with another human being. Or if I can avoid all of you to the best of my ability, but don't go too far, because I want you to tell me. I don't know what I just did. I hit the red button in the middle. It's always the red button. Damn it. Anyway. Need always implies addiction. Always. Because we really don't have needs. Right now, this very moment, would it be fair to say that each of us in this room right now is fine? And I'm not a euphemism, but truly fine and okay and healthy and well fed and clothed. And we have people who care about us, and we're loved, and we love people. We genuinely like a lot of those people. Things are okay until this ego jumps in based in fear, because ego is always based on fear, by the way. The ego jumps in and says, I need that to be okay. I need them to, if they'll just, I'll be okay. Ego thinks it's God. It thrives on fear and shame to shame us and keep us under control. So we'll talk more about that when we get through this list here. So loving adult is really our thinking process, okay? It's data in, data out. It's information. We need information to be able to take that information and put it into action. So informed action is what we want. I didn't have informed action until even 9 years into a recovery. You know, my informed actions were mostly about not picking up and being okay with that. And then I lost my third marriage. Mary had 3, I had 4. I beat you. I'm in trouble now. I'm going to get in trouble when I go home. That's not true, but not a good to say it. But anyway, so we need information, but when we live from our head, we're living from nothing. Because the child carries our feelings, and the only way we experience life in any way, shape, or form is through our feelings. Take feelings out of our life experience, and we're androids. How much fun is that? So I love it when I'm talking to somebody, I say, how do you feel? They go, bad poker players. You you just went they went to their head. They're racing like crazy to come up with the appropriate answer for the person that I am outside of here, or the sponsor, or whatever it might be, and they'll go, well, I think I'm angry. Well, how does that feel? Well, angry, because the intellectual brain cannot feel anything. It doesn't have the ability. It doesn't have the power. So it will guess at the best answer to give you, so that we don't look dumb or stupid. With the fear of toxic shame, which is the number one fear for most human beings. The fear of one more time being less than, not good enough, dumb, stupid, foolish, ridiculous, not fitting in, not belonging, worthless. I mean, I could give you 1,000 of them. And that's the core behind all addiction. There's toxic shame. And the fear of toxic shame, one more time, is almost as bad. Anybody relate to the fear of toxic shame? Anybody have a fear of shame message hit today that you'd be willing to share? Now the shame comes in because, oh no, I'd be afraid I can't let anybody know whether I just had a fear. Yeah. Well, I had a flash of one when I was sitting in the back, and I spilled some of my lunch on my shirt, and I go, the words came, oh no, what are they going to think? And so I was able to clean it up so that you didn't know. But it's even that subtle statement was me terrorizing this little boy. And I'll explain how that works in a minute once we finish with this list. So we evolve from the loving child and teenager into the loving parent around 14, anywhere from 11 to about 14 years old. And if kids haven't learned it by then, they're not going to learn it from mom and dad. Matter of fact, most of the time, kids 11 to 14 years old, even the most loving ones, they get in trouble and they're going to roll their eyes. They're going to sigh a lot. They're going to listen to the lecture. And inside they're going, they're so dumb. They're old. They don't know anything. I did that anyway, but we all did. But it literally is like breaking the Velcro. So we're actually allowing teenagers to pull apart and develop their own sense of self separate from me. And wise parenting will allow them to do, but still set limits and boundaries. No different internally as externally. So we make the transition into loving adult. We used to say, oh, about 18, right? Well, with the advent of quantum physics brain mapping, again, they found out that the frontal lobe, which is the higher functioning, executive functioning, self-parent, whatever you want to call it, doesn't finish developing in men until 26 years old. So telling a 21-year-old, grow up and act your age, what is wrong with you? They can't. They can modify behavior for a short period of time, but they haven't internalized intrinsically that process yet. So in women, 23. What was your first thought? Women. Anybody want to say when huh? Oh, were you? Anyone else? Women are more mature. You mature 3 years quicker. Yeah. But watch out, these guys catch up, I'll tell you. So we evolve out of the loving adult, and the loving adult is basically, I'm sure that most of you work, and you put on the loving adult when you walk into the job every morning. Because the loving, because most of our work environments, they don't allow for being emotional, for having issues. You know, we don't care. Take care of that outside of here. I'm giving you money to get this done. And so we put on the adults, and we also call it the Altogether Act. So the intellectual mind figures out what we're going to need to do to look okay for the day and to act certain ways and to do certain things. And then, you know, when we come home, ideally, you know, and me, half the time when I get home, I go right into teenager, which is fine. You know, I don't want to be an adult anymore. It's boring. I want to feel and I want to live and I want to be alive. And the most authentic part of who I am as a child. That beautiful, beautiful. By the way, that child carries the spirit of who we are. Who are the most spirited beings in all the world? Children. And most philosophies teach that we need to become far more like them than ever try to make them like us. And we try to make them like us. We're trying to create, you know, we're in an odd sort of way, we're trying to create clone children that act just right. And most of the time when I was trying to get my kids to act just right, it was because I was afraid of what they thought. These people out there, the neighbors, the people I'm around, you know, because how they acted was a reflection on me as a parent. So I'd control the hell out of them and try to get them to act just right, so that you would think, I was a good parent, you know, when the fact is, it's not, none of that. That's pure lie. And toxic shame is always a lie. Always a lie. It's the lie that I tell myself about how bad I am, or how afraid I am that you're going to think I'm bad. And if I'm, here's a clue about projected toxic shame. Any of you ever questioned something because you were afraid of what they might think? Has any of you ever met they? No, they're just not there. But we sure make them real, and it justifies our being afraid, and it justifies our being in shame. Well, the fact is, this was a hard one for me to accept at first. But the fact is, if I'm afraid you're going to judge me, it's because I've already judged myself. And I don't want you to validate it. Because if you validate it, then it'll make it real. Until then, I can tolerate and hold on to it to the best of my ability for a brief period of time, you know, and contain it and put on the act and look good, even though you know, it's like, maybe you might relate to this, for example, sitting in a CoDA meeting. Eat the light, you know, what the hell? I've been trying to do that on streets for as long as I've been driving. Anyway, you might relate to this. There were many times I go into a meeting, CoDA meeting, and I wouldn't want to share. until I heard what a number of people were saying. And I'm framing everything I'm going to say related to what four other people just said. So that I didn't speak up for myself, because if I spoke up for myself, you might judge me. And in another anonymous program, people don't hesitate to judge you if you sound stupid in that meeting, because they'll say, hey, it's just shut up. And I had that said to me. I mean, obviously not recently, because I was strong. They would have come back and said, hey, back off. That was offensive. And please do not talk to me that way. But back then, 45 years ago, that was normal behavior. And so now I've got all this fear going on inside, and I'm going, well, I wonder what I should say. Maybe I should. What if I don't? Oh, could I? And maybe I like what that one said. I'll piggyback on that. I can kind of act sort of like, and I'm preparing all of this. And when I go to talk, I put on the Altogether Act. Hi, I'm Ken. I'm a grateful, recovering codependent. And so I will present the Altogether Act and even talk about how spiritual this program is. And all these wonderful spiritual concepts and ideas and information. And inside I go, don't say too much, they might not like you. So I have this half going crazy inside, and that half presenting the Altogether Act. And if I do it well enough, I can go home and say, Mary, it was a great meeting tonight. Instead of recognizing I need to nurture that little boy and say, it's okay. I love you. I adore you. I know you may not yet trust me, but I'm going to share what I need to share, and I'll do the best I can to do it wisely from my heart. And I'll make sure that nobody hurts you, because I'm all you got. So we make the transition out of the loving thought, a loving adult, into our loving higher self, or our soul, and our heart connection. And by the way, feelings are the language of the heart. The intellectual mind cannot understand them. Feelings are the language of the heart. And when I'm having a dialogue inside and I'm trying to connect with my higher power, it's a source of inspiration, insight, intuition, instinct. My higher power, my adult does not understand that. It requires empirical data. But my heart might go, I know because I know because I know. And it took me a long time to trust that. Because this voice would kick in, the fear monger. What if you're wrong? Bad things will happen. Which is what most fear is driven by. The fear that something bad is going to happen. They will think, we'll be, this will happen, blah, blah, blah. What if you're wrong? No, we've got to act okay, put on the act, make sure everything's okay. We can't be real and authentic. Unless the loving parent would step in and say, back off, stop talking to me that way. Stop scaring me. So when I'm in I call it the four N's: inspiration, insight, intuition, and instinct. When I'm there, I am connecting with my higher power, because that's the source. And so I believe that the higher self is where imagination lives. Not fantasy. Fantasy is created by the child and the teenager. Fantasy is human creation. Imagination is the workshop of the spirit. And that, one of my favorite scientists, if I have any favorite scientists, the only one I really hold in favor is Einstein. And he thrived on the word imagination. And when I began to read that and get some inspiration from him through that, I was like, oh my gosh, if you ever get a chance, look online. Imagination quotes from Einstein. Amazing information. Stuff, I swear the guy was sitting in a meeting. Because he relied on that type of information and he trusted his heart. And then he would put his intellectual mind to use, trying to manifest what it was his heart was telling him. Did it all the time. So if we didn't get these, what did we get? Okay. Not, I'm not touching the red one. Dave, thank you. So what we got instead, rather than a love, rather than a loving parent, we got an adaptive child, what we call the passive aggressive adaptive child. And we adapted roles based on how we were treated specifically as a child, in how we responded to the environment that we're in. Minimizes or demands that their feelings are heard. And in my case, I acted out. I demanded I was heard. But see, Mary kind of alluded to the fact that I did the anger in the family of two sisters and my mom. So they didn't like that, but men could get angry. But they found a way to get me out of the house from 8 years old on, and I never came back to live at home till the last after my senior year in high school. So adaptive children adapt to the environment. They figure out what the adults and authorities want, and they become that. So the passive aggressive roles is what we develop. So, Mary talked about being passive aggressive, and we're not talking about passive aggressive. That's a third type of anger. There's passive aggressive and passive aggressive. But the passive roles are the look good roles. How many of you were straight A students? The perfect one, the right one, the good one. Extension of mom, extension of dad, surrogate spouse to mom or dad, surrogate confidant, caretaker for mom, for dad, the little parent who took care of the kids because mom and dad were drinking so much they were regressing to childlike states almost every night. I mean, there are so many look good roles. And then we get validation for it. Excuse me. The aggressive roles are the problem in the family. The rebel, the angry one, he or she would leak the secrets in the family intentionally. Tell the neighbors, whatever. I mean, I could go on and on. There's literally thousands of roles. But when they're reinforced enough, like my mom, she would constantly say, "What is wrong with you?" She just looked at me, go, "God, what is wrong with you?" So it didn't take too long before that imprinted on this hard drive in my brain called the subconscious mind, and it went, "Oh, something's wrong with me." Well, then I started acting like something was wrong with me. I didn't know. I didn't know how to go, "Oh, I'm 8 years old. I didn't know how to go, oh, that's about mom, not about me. I'm going to have some really strong boundaries here, and I'm going to go outside and play and have a fun day." No, I took it on because that's what we do is we take on how we're treated. And then we wear the sign, and then we attract people who continue to treat us the same way. And we marry the same or just the opposite of some of our family members because it's all we know. And so we have an adaptive child who will go to great lengths to become what the family wants, or rebel against the family because it feels crazy and they can't contain the feelings. How many of you rebelled? How many rebels in the room? Oh, I feel really good about that. Yeah, I mean, and rebellion was a way of surviving, right? Like I said, this angry teenager, I would not be here today if it weren't for him, because I was thrown out of 8 schools and each one got progressively worse. And they had the money to buy their way, keep me out of the house. So I made the picture look bad. So that was one of my roles too, make the picture look bad. So instead of developing a loving parent who treated that child with self-love, self-respect, self-integrity, self-dignity, self-esteem, self-confidence, treated that child with fear and shame. So oftentimes the critical indulgent parent, mine was both. Mine was indulgent and she had the money, so she would buy love. And so I knew how to say things just the right way to get her to give me the money, to do what I wanted. And if it didn't work, then I knew how to get intense. And finally, she'd shut me up by giving me what I want. But I knew how to manipulate the system. So I'm, in my sick mind, I thought I was loved. So she would give me what I want. So I would rebel, I would react, But I had this voice inside that kept going, what the hell is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? You were so dumb. You were so stupid. You were so ridiculous. It literally comes from this particular ego state. The adult really has everything to do with fear and shame thoughts. And most of my days were riddled with fear and shame thoughts. So I would take those thoughts, put them into action, and shame the child, scare the child. Oh, you're going to wear that? Oh, that's dumb. Stupid. Oh, God. And the diminishing heart is where we live more and more and more and choose fear rather than faith. And so the heart begins to close down. And I believe when it shuts down altogether is when we die. Premature death, physical illness, you name it. So ideally, the journey, and by the way, this is a 4-hour workshop that I've had to condense into, I don't know how well I'm doing, but I'm doing okay, into about an hour and a half. And normally I would do this workshop over 4 hours or 8 hours. And we would be breaking out into discussion and all sorts of other activities. But because of the time constraints, I am not able to do that. So we'll be doing. Okay. No problem. I'll just dance around in the light for a little while. So we adapt, literally we adapt at all levels. And rather than faith, we use fear. And oftentimes we're trained to project that fear now onto God and fear God, And then you all tell me I got to turn my life well over the care of God as I understand God. Oh boy, that's going to be fun because, if I screw up, I'm going to get beat up, And so we run into all sorts of conflicts that we bring into our adult life. And then we take all of that on an emotional, physical, sexual, intellectual, spiritual level, and we go find someone like Mary, and I knock on the door and say, "Hi, I'm here for the relationship." And she goes, "Oh, I've been waiting for you all my life. Come on in." Oh, she's a good codependent, and so was I. I mean, isn't that what we did? Oh, you're the one. Oh, no, 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 no. I'll divorce you. I mean, you're the one. So 4 times I did that, but I married my mom, my dad, my mom, and my dad. And when the honeymoon is over, by the way, our entire unresolved emotional history shows up. Every bit of it. It's the greatest gift we could give ourselves if two people are willing to go to any lengths to make a marriage work. The greatest teacher in the world was that person sitting in the back. She reflected to me every wart, shortcoming, flaw, character defect. My gosh, I didn't even know I had. Thank you. Actually, I'm so grateful because if I wanted to be a loving man, and that's my deepest desire, still to this day, is to continue to grow to be a more loving man tomorrow than I was today. If I want to be a loving man, I got to deal with everything that keeps me from loving. Or I can dance around it, but shit, I danced around it all my life. Okay. And so the journey of recovery, actually, I want to back up. Um, oh, I want to go back. There we go. Thank you. So the source of self-love and the source of care and beauty and look and goodness and self-esteem and self-confidence and self-respect and self-integrity and is only one source on the entire planet. It's right here. Do I treat this beautiful spirit with love and integrity and dignity and self-esteem and self-respect and self-respect, or do I shame it with fear messages and shame messages? So let's say I had a little boy right here. Let's say he's about 6, 7 years old. He's here with me. And somebody walks over here, walks up here and says, "You guys are just stupid idiots. And that little one, he's really sick. What the hell's wrong with you?" And looks at him and, he said, "Why don't you just go sit down over there? Nobody wants you here anyway." I'm the parent, right? I'm the caregiver for this little boy. What am I supposed to do? You got to protect him. I need to stand in front of him and tell that person to leave, and don't you ever try to talk to me that way or him again. He might escalate. Then I need to use anger as a righteous tool, righteous meaning right use, a righteous tool to match it. Hey, if you can't stop, I'm going to leave. When I go, "Well, I don't give it," you go ahead and leave. Well, then I'll take that little one with me and go outside. He's going to look at me, that little one, and we're not going to like the situation. But I'm going to walk out the door with my self-esteem intact because I took care of myself and I took care of him. And I remember I had a situation where that happened. We used to live up north in northern Arizona, and I was doing something, and this little one looked at me and he says, first time in my life, because I talked to him, I picture him in a seat in the car when I'm driving from up north to sit in Phoenix, and we had little teddy bears for him and all kinds of things. But he had never talked to me this way. And he looked at me and he seriously said, "I'm starting to trust you." First time in my life, I had a sense of self-trust. And the only source was that loving child. Not too long after that, he had a big grin on his face about something else. And he says, "I really believe in you." And I looked at him and went, "Really?" He says, "Well, yeah." And I says, "Okay." So I took that on. Brought me to tears. Then he said, something happened, and I remember he looked at me and he went, "You're really awesome." I was like, "Oh yes." And for the first time in my life, I realized I had self-esteem, self-trust, self-belief, and I was growing self-confidence, and the only source came from him. It's the only source for any of us. You can't give it to me. You can tell me all the nice things in the world, and I can take that on and say thank you, but it's not self-esteem. It's others' esteem. So it comes from him. So now I want to go back to, actually, I want to go up to, oh, look at that. Dang. I was standing in the right place. Say what? Okay, thank you. So what's the difference between what happened with that man and this little boy and this critical, indulgent, shaming parent who fires on his kid? Oh, what's wrong with you? God, you're going to get it right. Oh my God, you're going to wear that. Oh no, you can't. That's stupid. Oh my God, you failed the test. Oh shoot. And who's standing up for him? No one. So we learn to accept it. You don't, I'm not, by the way, you don't scare me. None of you scare me. I scare myself about you. And it always comes from here. Fearful thinking, put into fearful actions, and dumping it on that child, trying to control that child. So recovery and this journey from here to here is we want to learn to make this transition in loving, in self-parenting from critical and judgmental and indulgent. And you know, sometimes parents are indulgent. So we internalize, that's what we do, is we indulge ourselves. Anybody grew up with an indulgent parent? No. Oh, mine was indulgent until she'd had enough. And then she would shame me for wanting anything. And then she'd feel guilty and give me some money to let me go to the movies. So I knew how to work the system. We all did, or we wouldn't be sitting here today. So in my recovery, if I hear this part of me, Mary gave me a beautiful gift one day, again, when we were living up north. And I had said something to someone, I'd done something that I realized was not appropriate in my profession. And when I hung up the phone, I'm kind of storming around the living room. We had, you know, like a great room, and I'm storming around. Like, God, I screwed that up. What the hell is wrong with me? Jeez, am I ever getting? I don't even know why I work in this field. Oh shit! You know, I'm just beating on myself. And Mary came out of the bedroom and heard all that, and she said, "Ken," and I know you probably heard this phrase, but she said it in such a way that got my attention. And she has this ability to do it with great power, but calmly. Great power. Yeah. Will you please stop treating my friend that way? And the tears came for her. And by abusing myself, I was abusing the hell out of her. I didn't know it. And didn't realize that I was giving this part of me all the play it wanted because it was normal and familiar, which are the two core words that define codependence. We will subconsciously recreate normal and familiar. And so I had to develop the skill of this loving parent intervening on this child, on this critical parent. So, which means I had to start becoming conscious of my fear thoughts, whether I liked it or not. And I had to become conscious of my shame thoughts. And this parent, because that was going straight to that child and continuing to re-wound that child again and again and again, this parent needed to stand up for him. So I learned to, it took some time, but fear and shame are learned. So they're habitual, they're habits. We can change them into loving thoughts, but we have to do it enough times to override the old habit. That's all it is. So if I intervene on it, I had to intervene on it as a loving parent. Back off and stop. The truth is, and always state the truth, because fear are the lies I tell myself about how bad it's going to be. And shame, toxic shame, are the lies I tell myself about how bad I am. And so they're lies. So I had to learn to intervene on the thought. Stop, we're not going there. And we know that if we can intervene on the thought in 3 to 5 seconds, which is a long time in thought time, we can actually stop the brain from releasing fear and shame chemistry into my nervous system, and I don't have to go into a shame spiral. So it took a while to catch it in real time. Once I did, it was like, stop, no. And then that voice would come right back. Well, yeah, but no, it's not an option. You're not an option. Well, what if, no, you're not an option. I mean, I remember driving down the freeway going, just shut up, trying to stop this fearmonger. It was so ingrained. And it drove every bit of rage there is. The degree somebody rages, silently or aggressively, or anything in between, is the same degree of fear they're operating from. It's all about fear, because fear feels powerless. So of course, rage feels powerful. So that for me, that was my option. So intervening on fear and shame messages, stop. No, the truth is, I'm an amazing creation of God. Well, yeah, but what if they, no, they're not an option and neither are you. Back off and stop. The truth is, and always state the truth, because if I'm going to intervene on an old message, I need to imprint a new one and keep imprinting and printing and printing. And pretty soon my subconscious mind started going, hey, new normal, we go right now. We don't go that way anymore. And slowly but surely, one after another began to fade away. And they still come. I mean, I to get rid of them, literally, I'd have to have a frontal lobotomy, but just carve that part of my brain out. But I don't tolerate the feeling of it anymore. And the feeling always tells me my truth. My feelings will never lie to me. They're not debatable. My head will rationalize murder, but my feelings won't. So, and they're directly connected to my spirit and my child and my heart, all of that. So we have to, as a evolution and codependence recovery is so critical to develop a strong parent on board. Because otherwise, I'm going to shift and keep my dependency on you as a sponsor. Well, I'm not going to make a decision unless I check it out with you first. I got to run everything by you. Instead of a wise sponsor who's going to see that and push back and say, what are you thinking? Well, I don't know. I don't want to screw up. Well, now I'm operating from fear again. You know, and today, the only way we grow spiritually is to make mistakes. That makes sense? Yeah. Unless you met anyone who's arrived, if you have, please talk to me afterwards because I want to meet them too. No, we're all on a journey. We're all evolving at our own personal pace, and there's no way to judge mine against yours. I can't judge yours against mine. I wasn't even given the right to judge. But the source of toxic shame is always judgment. That I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm less than, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm foolish. So the transition is out of the adaptive child and into the loving child. And the fact is, the stronger the loving parent, the easier this adaptive child goes, oh, wow, this is even better. Let's go over here. and they adapt to the loving child much more quickly because children know who they're supposed to be. They know that, you know, they're not wrong or bad, but they believe they were because of how they were treated. We believe we were because of how we were treated. You know, not enough, not good enough, shame, fear, scared, whatever. We intervene as much as possible. As people start, suggested, I want you to start writing. Every time a fear or shame message comes up, make one line statement. Fear, da da da. And I did. Next time I saw him, I said, "How are you doing with that?" He said, "My hand got tired after 3 days. All I was writing was one fear message after another, and it's like, good, keep going." Because I'm basically telling the fear in my brain, because it's just a thought, that you're not an option, and it's got to get it. And if, or as I had a good friend tell me, Ken, you can indulge in faith, or you can indulge in fear. Either way, you're worshiping. You tell me what you want to worship. It was like, there's no way I could answer that one other than, obviously faith. And so, and fear is not real. It's a story I tell myself about how bad it's going to be. The next moment, the next minute, the next hour, the next week, I tell myself, I scare myself with that. And I'm having a miserable day right here, right now, because I just scared myself about tomorrow. When the fact is, it didn't even happen, and it usually doesn't happen that way. But I'm having a miserable 24 hours because I scared myself. So we want to intervene on our fearful thoughts, and that comes from the parent as well, intervening on the actions, intervening on the thoughts, and going, no, the truth is, over and over and over again. And the more that we do, the heart is to automatically expand. Because the more safe I make me, and the more safe I make this world inside of me, the more my heart feels free to become all that God intended me to be. No matter what you think. As I had Mary mentioned the therapist that we saw for about 2.5 years. Well, it was hers, and ours therapy every week for 2.5 years. Because I had a lot of history to clear out. So did Mary. And then we had gathered a ton of history itself. And we couldn't stay in the same room with each other for more than 24 hours without triggering each other. And the triggers weren't about Mary. I mean, it wasn't my trigger about Mary, and Mary's about me. I was just triggering her about her history, and she was triggering my history. So we had to clear the wreckage out first. And it worked because we're here today. My longest marriage was 5 years. Mary's was 7. And as she told you, we'll celebrate 40, which I could scratch my head. 40 years? Huh? How did that happen? But on New Year's Eve, and because of this work, when I took my focus off of Mary and started focusing on me, life and the transition from here to here was an evolutionary process. I can still slip back here. Like I said, I haven't cut that out. If I'm hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, it can still happen. There's a little bit of information in the CoDA book. In commonly asked questions, there's a section on, I think it's 107 and 108, on the, what is the self-parent and what is the child within. There's more information than what I just shared today, and I'm trying to throw a whole lot of information at you right now. So I imagine you're probably overwhelmed a bit. But so what I'd like to do is, if you're open to it, is to take a moment, ask you all to get comfortable, and to just close your eyes. And to take 3 or 4 deep breaths. And with each breath, release any and all tension and any and all anxiety. And With the next breath, follow it to your heart. Move your consciousness from your head to your heart. And let yourself see the brilliant, beautiful, amazing, pure light of love that dwells there. It's always there. We came into this world with that light, and we'll leave with it. So notice how it feels to be centered in your heart. And now use your imagination, open that part of your brain, and imagine yourself being at your most favorite place, wherever that might be, by the ocean, in the mountains, on a hiking path, in your backyard, wherever that might be. Imagine yourself being there and sitting down on a bench, in the sand, wherever you are, sitting down comfortably. Now, picture and breathe into that pure, loving self-parent that you are. That part of you where true empowerment lives. That part of you who puts in the action, self-love, self-care, self-respect, self-boundaries. That part of you that stands up for you when necessary. That part of you that delights in the joy of letting that little one inside of you be truly authentic and alive. And now, as that self-parent, picture your little one walking towards you. And when they get to you, if they don't know who you are, ask them if they do know who you are. And if they don't, tell them, I'm big you. I'm here to care for you. I'm here to love and adore you because they couldn't or didn't know how. I'm here to make your life safe, peaceful, and free from judgment and fear. I'm here to help you have a safe place to be all that God intended you to be. I'm here to put my hand on your heart when I need to and when you want me to. I won't always let you do what you want, but most of the time I will. But no matter what, we'll talk about it. I'm here to honor your feelings and to kiss your tears and to give you room to growl as loud as you want to if you get angry. I'm here to enhance as much of your joy as I can. And if you need something from me and I don't have that answer, I will find it no matter what. I'm here to find safe inner children in our lives that we can go enjoy and play with and have fun. I'm here to tuck you in before I go to sleep every night and make sure you're safe and tell you how much I love you. And I'm here to tell you good morning when we wake up and let you know that we're going to have a great day. Ask that little one if they would like all of these things. And that let them know that you're working towards making those things happen. Ask them if there is anything they would like from you right now as their parent. And if you can fulfill that, tell them you'll do what you can to make that happen. Ask them if they would be okay if you come and talk with them every day. Tell them two things among many, I'm sure, but tell them two things that you really like about them. And let yourself show them that you truly love and adore them. Showing them is what they will learn to trust, not the words. Let them know that we're going to be coming back here in a moment. And if they'd like to come with you, invite them to come with you and make sure that you keep them safe. And if they want to go do something else, make sure that whatever they're doing, that they are safe. And like our friend often likes to say, if necessary, tell them to go and hang out at Angel Daycare. And when you're ready and they're ready, give them a hug, maybe a kiss. And when you're ready, after that, return to the room and open your eyes and just remain quiet till everybody's here.